Since 2016, our team has processed over 5 million pounds of wash, dry, fold at premium prices, and it's changed our life forever. We now have a well-oiled machine in Cincinnati, Ohio that allows us to not work in our businesses at all.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about our pickup and delivery process, how we segment our expenses into different categories to make sure that we always end up with a profit. And we're going to be sharing that all with you. Dave calls it his four-legged stool. We're going to be talking to you more about that in today's Laundromat Millionaire show. So, as I mentioned, today we're going to be focusing on our approach to pickup and delivery. Dave coins it the four-legged stool, but it's basically the four areas to focus on to develop a great system for pickup and delivery. We're also going to then translate it into what that looks as far as the economics behind it, how your expenses break down, and what is the profit that's remaining. So first with the four-legged stool. So Dave, you want to share what your four legs are?
Yeah, so real quick, the four legs of the stool are volume processing of laundry. And I think it's important that we put the word volume in there. And the reason why is it's not hard, we all know, to process wash, dry, fold if you just have an attendant doing a couple orders here and there. I always call that free labor because they're already accounted for in your payroll, typically if you're an attended store or something like that. And what I learned is I couldn't just rinse and repeat by adding more attendants to the store. I had to create a separate position, a laundry processor position. But we'll get to more into that in a minute. But I want you to focus on the word volume because if you're launching pickup and delivery, you're probably not looking to do just a couple orders each night. The second one is route-based logistics. We're going to talk about, obviously, logistics. You know what that means. It's the actual drivers dispatching and picking up laundry and things like that. Why do we focus on, why do we teach, and why do we operate on a route-based logistical process here in Cincinnati? And why will it work for you? Because you don't really care what we do. You care if it'll work for you and your market. The third leg to the stool is technology. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's your standard over-the-counter POS, software services, the tools that they provide to you. And this is fairly high-level stuff. You know, we want to keep this podcast relatively short. So we're not trying to get into the weeds and teach you, 6 months worth of information. We just want to kind of break down for you how we categorize things.
And I think with technology too, we're not telling you what technology to use, but we're going to focus more on what you should look for in whatever technology you choose.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we're not here to sell anything. We're just here to share for you how we break down our operations side of the business, just so you can get your mind around maybe a similar version of what yours should look like. And then, as Carla mentioned, the economics. What should those departments' budgets be, if you will? And then the last one that I throw together, they don't have a ton to do with each other, is just customer service and marketing. They're both fairly small, insignificant portions of your overall business because this is primarily a logistics and processing business. So I throw those in a category together, and we're just going to dive into those fairly quickly. So those are the four legs to the stool. They're volume processing of laundry, they're route-based logistics, technology, and customer service and marketing. So let's jump right into the first one. The first one, as I mentioned, was volume processing of laundry. And as I mentioned, the most important thing for us to understand is there is a pivot point. And Carla will remember, this is really where we started to struggle when we launched pickup and delivery. Because what we did is we launched pickup and delivery. We went out. I drove the van. I picked up the laundry. It was 2 or 3 orders a day. I brought it back to the store. Our attendant or our manager did the orders. And the next day, I took it back to the customer. That's pretty much how we all launch for the most part. If you have an owner that can drive the van, and if you have an attendant or a manager that can do the laundry, and you should launch that way. It's very simplistic. What happens is hopefully you grow, right? You grow your business, and you eventually get to the point where maybe the owner doesn't want to continue a full-time job of driving a van, and you run out of that excess capacity, that free labor. The attendant can only handle a few orders each night. And now you have to bring in what we call a dedicated laundry processor. When that happens, the economics change completely because now your store attendant, who has responsibilities of the store and cleaning and is that free payroll that we talked about, now your attendant is no longer an attendant. They are a laundry processor. They're not cleaning the store. They're not providing customer service. They're only doing laundry. And that's when it really, really gets hairy.
And I think reflecting back on our process, this was one of the most difficult areas to really figure out. And we tried so many different things. But by that, I mean, getting to the point where we needed third shift processing is what we do. We close our stores at night, and basically one of our locations turns into a factory. The machines go free and they are just hammering out the laundry orders, and that's all they focus on. But figuring out the balance between what to pay them where it was still profitable for us and how fast we needed them to be able to process that laundry, like how many pounds per hour, and trying to get that balance of incentivizing them to process at a certain speed to make it profitable, but also make it a worthwhile job for them that they wanted to stay there. So that was something we worked through a lot, and just like, oh my gosh, trying to find efficiencies in processing, trying to find ways to help them be able to process as fast as possible. Because basically the more they can process, the faster they can do it, the more profit we can make. So it's really like almost like this factory mindset of trying to get your costs as low as possible and get your processing as fast as possible.
Well, and part of that really delicate balance, because the money is one side of it, and then the work is the other side. What we found is having someone come in and pound out 300, 400, 500 pounds of laundry in an 8 or 10 hour shift. That's basically like similar to a concrete job or a construction job.
It's hard work.
It's very, very hard work. And so you're not just going to pay someone minimum wage. You're not just going to pay them a couple bucks an hour above minimum wage and expect them to produce at that level and stay at the job. So if you are doing wash, dry, fold at a high volume or pick up and delivery at a high volume and you're struggling keeping your people, that may be a part of the problem. So part of what we had to figure out is what could they do physically, and then what would they do in exchange for a certain compensation level, and then how could we factor in bonuses and incentives and things like that. We don't have time to go into all that today, but this is what makes this so difficult to scale. It's the reason that if you've launched pickup and delivery and you thought you had it all figured out like we did at one point, and then all of a sudden you hit this brick wall of what I call scalability when you bring in individual processors. Maybe you started having 2 attendants on duty at once and then 3 attendants on duty, which is what we did. And you weren't accounting for those labor and the inefficiencies. You were just treating them like an attendant doing laundry. So anyway,
but not just the pay, like I think a huge part of it is the efficiencies that we've built into our system. Just how you lay out your store, how they transition from the washers to the dryers to the folding, how they label things, how you keep from losing any of the orders. Just like there's so much in the processes that helps them be faster and be able to produce that high volume that you need to be successful with pickup and delivery.
Yeah. And then the flip side of that I was getting ready to hit is you can't ever under any circumstance sacrifice quality. Like you can't. This is a trust business. We're not in the laundry business. We're in the trust business. And the fact of the matter is you can get all these things right, and if your quality suffers, you have no business. So the volume processing of laundry, the art of all the things we just talked about, including training and maintaining a high level of quality control, is difficult to do, but it's that first kind of segment or silo of the business that you have to be able to get down. There's nothing better than free. Ever heard that before? Well, it's not true. You know what your laundromat customers like even better than free? It's fast. That's right. They want to save time more than they want to save money in most cases. They want to get in and out of your laundromat as fast as possible, and they'll pay more for that experience. We're proof of that here in Cincinnati. That's why we added HM Company drain troughs into our newest store in Cincinnati. While they may never know why, your customers will love that your washers all drain better and faster than with old school drain pipes. As if that wasn't enough, every HM drain trough is made in the USA, So they ship in only a few weeks, and everyone is custom made just for you and your project. If you want to provide your customers with a top of the industry experience in your store, then contact your distributor to order your HM Company drain trough today or visit draintroughs.com. All right, so number 2, let's jump into number 2. Do you want to take it?
Okay, so the second thing is the route-based logistics. We are route-based. First off, it's just more efficient. There are on-demand services, and if you are planning on serving a very small area and it is extremely densely populated, if you live in the middle of Brooklyn, on-demand might work for you. But for most markets, we feel that route-based is the best way to go because you can build in efficiencies in your routes. You can basically limit the number of trips you have to take. You can limit the number of miles the drivers have to drive.
The way I've always envisioned it is we're siloing our customers, just like we're siloing departments and economics. Maybe funnel's a better word. We're funneling our customers and training them that we pick up on certain days in their markets. But the cool thing about this is if you choose the right technology, there's tools and aspects of DoorDash integration, which a lot of the software companies are coming out with, and several have, and every one of them are adding more of them every day, things like that. And so what we found is we can be even a hybrid of kind of a route-based system, because we can be a route-based system for, let's say we can go, our trucks can go 20, 30, 40 miles from our store, as long as they go that far and they pick up 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 pounds of laundry. But what we can also do is we can utilize a tool like DoorDash within some of these software components and offer them also on-demand service if they want to pay the DoorDash fee. And so you don't have to do that, but it allows you to offer an on-demand service within a short radius. Nobody's going to pay DoorDash 40 minutes fee to go 40 minutes from their house. And so what I tell people is, depending on the technology, which we'll get into next, you can build different tools in depending on what technology tools are out there. But what a lot of people do is they launch the logistic aspects of pickup and delivery, and they immediately think or assume that we have to be on demand and we have to give them a 1-hour window of when they'll pick up, and we have to give them an appointment. And if they call at 10 a.m. and they say, I need a pickup today at noon, that they have to be there at noon. And while that may work in a couple markets of the country, and it's great, you can provide that level of service just because of the density of the population, the reality is here in Cincinnati, we're in roughly the number 100 market in the country. So we are the epitome of a mid-major city in every way, shape, and form. And the last thing we wanted to do is only offer pickup and delivery within 5 or 6 miles of our store and be forced to be on demand, because there's just not enough population in that area to build a significant business. We were ambitious. We wanted to build a significant business, and the only way to do that was expand our territory. So if you're in one of the top 3-4 markets in the country, you can be on demand. You have 500,000 people within a mile of your store. Awesome. Have at it. Maybe route-based isn't for you. But if you're in the rest of the country, which is most of the people watching this episode, the fact of the matter is route-based is going to be the way to go for you. And if you want to add something like a DoorDash integration, you can, or you don't have to. You can just funnel everybody into those different routes. The next thing I like to talk about when it comes to route-based is the next day returns. I feel like this is a big part of our secret sauce. Is what we found is if you funnel your customers into these 2 or 3 pickup days per week, what they really care about, they don't mind waiting a day or two for you to pick up their laundry, but they do care how quickly it comes back. And so I see a lot of operations, and I talk to a lot of my friends in the industry, and they're almost doing the opposite. They're trying to pick up every day or every other day, but then when they pick up, they're trying to be efficient on the backside when they return it. And so they're trying to silo it back in. And when they do that, what happens is the customers, we've been doing this 6 years and over 5 million pounds. So what we've learned is the customers aren't as concerned as how quickly you get there to pick up their laundry. But once you pick it up, they want it back as quickly as possible. And so that's a big part of that. That stool is the logistics aspect and the next day returns. And the truth is, it is tough to pick up a high level volume of laundry, process it overnight or second shift in your store at a high quality control, and then return it the next day. That's not something that's easy to do. But if you're able to build the systems into your business like we've done, and it's highly repeatable, it's a market differentiator, which we talk about all the time. And you can charge more for that. Not only will you be their favorite pickup and delivery service because you return it back to them the next day, but they'll pay more for that level of service. So that kind of falls into that route-based business. Even though it seems like it's counterproductive to wait a couple days to pick it up, they don't mind that. They mind the return date is what we've learned.
And I just wanted to touch on too, kind of how we develop the routes is we use zip codes, but it also allows you to kind of analyze your market. Because I know at one time, our routes extended over a lot of miles. It was a very large area.
At one point, 50 miles, 50 miles from our store.
Yes.
Which is insane. Don't do that, by
It's
the way.
crazy. But what we were finding is over time, initially we did that, but over time, we did that with being optimistic with the hope that we would pick up clients and it would kind of make it worth that drive out there. But over time, when we didn't, it was very easy if you're route based to kind of cut your market area down and you get instant efficiencies too.
Yeah, as you trim those routes down, you're obviously trimming your least efficient routes. And so, if you have inefficient routes that you're, say, losing money on, and you trim those off, you're no longer losing money, your margins go up. If you're trimming off routes that you weren't maybe losing money on, but you weren't making money on, then what you're doing is freeing up excess capacity, whether it's in your store with your equipment, they're just not running. Now you don't need as many people. Now you don't need as many trucks. The emotional stress of your team trying to pick up 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pounds of laundry a night now goes down to 1,200 or 1,500 or 2,000. And so you do less work, less stress, and you end up with more money. So learn from our mistakes. Don't try to go 50 miles from your home, but you also can go a lot more than 5 miles from your home. And that's the balance of the beauty of a route-based system. So that was number 2 on the four-legged stool. Number 3 is technology. And we won't spend a ton of time on this. Once again, this is not really about promoting a particular product or service or even saying you need one with DoorDash. That's just an example, but a lot of them have that nowadays. Really what I want to focus on is the reasons to use technology. Because a lot of people will launch pickup and delivery, and I was tempted. I won't lie. I was tempted in the beginning to just like get my cell phone and a dry erase board and a van, and just go and be like, hey, if you want to pick up, just call me. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made was launching with a software service. And so maybe you pick the wrong one the first time. It's still a good thing to do, but hopefully we can help you through the process of, helping you choose the right one. One of the things that you're looking for in a software service is you're looking for flexibility. You're looking for that software system isn't built for the owner's business model, but it's built for you to run your model the way you want to. So for example, if you look at a software service, that's a fantastic service, but it's built by somebody that runs a completely on-demand service in New York City. Well, if you're going to run your business like they're going to run their business and you're in a market similar to New York City, great, that may work for you. Once again, for most of us, that's not the case. And what I also encourage people to do is when you're getting into pickup and delivery, I don't know that it's a great idea to make a decision on a business model or make a software decision based on a business model. Because what if down the road you decide to make either big or small pivots or maybe drastic pivots in your business? Well, do you really want to have to switch software services? Really what you want to do, and there are some out there, is look at a software service that offers you flexibility. If you want to run route-based, you can. If you want to charge by the bag or by the pound, you can. You want DoorDash? Fine, it's there. Don't want DoorDash? Turn it off. Look for software services. And the good news is that most of the software services out there, they're starting to figure this out. Some of them are less flexible than others because the platform and the technology isn't where it needs to be. But to a lot of extent, there's a lot of software services out there that are saying, well, I don't only want to serve Dave and Carla and Bob and Steve and Jane who run this type of business, because if there's, let's say they're 50-50, half the industry is running on demand, they can't sell their software service to that half of the industry, and they're probably not going to convince you to change your business model. So the good news is a lot of the software services out there, they're starting to realize the inefficiencies or weaknesses in their model, and they want to provide service. They want to sell their software to everyone.
Yeah.
And so those things are changing slowly but surely, but that's something that we've had some growing pains with, and some software holds us back at different times and things like that. The last thing I want to say on that is just When you launch a pickup and delivery business, if you're not using software, it doesn't appear very professional. And one of the things that we've really learned with pickup and delivery, because once again you're in the trust business, is you really want to be a premium service. And you need to charge premium prices. I mean, if you're trying to pick up and delivery at $1.50 a pound, you're going to struggle in pretty much every market in the country. But if you can get over $2, we charge $2.49 in Cincinnati for pickup and delivery. And one of the ways to do that, I'm not saying it's the be all end all, but one of the ways to do that is to utilize a back end software technology that makes you appear, quite frankly, much bigger than you really are. It makes your small family-owned private business, pickup and delivery business, it makes you look like kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But also, as you grow the business, in the beginning, if you have 5 or 10 customers, of course, you can write them on a dry erase board. As you launch and scale pickup and delivery, you will quickly outgrow that. And what's happening is a lot of times you're on a very quick upward trajectory where you're growing very fast. And the last thing you want to do is stop that momentum so you can grab your current business and drop it into a software service and then learn how to use the software service. It's actually better to launch from the very beginning or when you're new to the business with a software platform and things are relatively quiet. Have a couple customers each day. You can learn the platform, and it will also legitimize your business and allow you to charge a premium. There's no doubt about it.
I think too, a huge part with having the technology is, if you're just writing people's names on the whiteboard or whatever, that's nice, but you don't have all of their preferences. One of the great things about pickup and delivery service that I think people really like is that they can customize it. They can pick the detergent they use. They can pick if they want things folded or hung up or hung dry or whatever, hot water, cold water, all those preferences. And for a system that will save those preferences where automatically they don't have to choose it every time, but it is there saved in the system the next time they place an order with you, I think that's huge.
Well, and I know some owners, once again, when the business is small, they'll save those things in a spreadsheet or something like that. Well, once again, if you don't have a software service, yes, the customer can change those preferences, but guess what they have to do? They have to call you or email you, and then you have to go in and manually change it. When you're utilizing a software service that, quite frankly, most of them only cost a few $100s a month anymore. They used to be more expensive, but that's pretty much all they are nowadays. It's a pretty insignificant investment, and you can set up a customer profile and a customer account, what they call a CRM, and the customer can log in through your website into the software, change the preferences themselves. And it really is just very customer intuitive, and it also keeps you from being bogged down by doing manual labor of changing Tide to Gain or whatever it is. So yeah, that's the third leg of the stool is technology. And then the fourth one, I kind of threw two things together because I don't want to minimize them. They're actually a really big deal. But as far as expenses, they're not huge expenses. But I threw them together just because I've never seen a five-legged stool. Maybe that's part of it too. Anyway, so the fourth leg of the stool, we're combining two things that are very important to your business. But hopefully, if you do them well, they won't be a big time suck. And those are customer service and marketing. So the first thing I want to talk about is customer service. Now, we've tried everything under the sun. We have tried, hiring a virtual assistant, and we've had people in-house take calls, and we've outsourced to an outsourced call center. And nowadays what we do is we have an in-house premium service. And I tell you what, customer service is important. It's very, very, very important. And so I wouldn't encourage you to outsource this. Now, there are tools out there that can take messages for you, that can screen calls. We do use tools like that, and we do encourage you to do tools like that. But at the end of the day, if a customer sends you an email, I recommend that it be your team responding to that. If they call and they need to leave a message with an answering service, that's not a big deal. But who calls back? It needs to be someone from your team.
And it needs to be quickly.
An operations person. Absolutely.
Yes. It needs to be somebody who can give them answers. Like he said before, this is a trust business. I mean, this is a premium service. These are your clientele is more the people that have the excess income where they want to buy back their time. They don't want to spend it doing laundry. And they need to trust you with their clothes. And we spend a lot of money on our clothes. So that's a big concern. So if they do have an issue, they need to feel like they can get a hold of someone, even if it's a message, it's returned quickly, efficiently and professionally with answers for whatever their concern is. So it's pretty huge, or else you don't develop that trust.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say on customer service is there's a bunch of tools and technology and resources out there. There are some things like an answering service, for example, or an email platform that are highly leverageable, and you should utilize those tools. But then there's other things that in a lot of cases, a lot of companies, not even in our industry, kind of hide behind. They, if you can't call Facebook, for example, you have to email them, and 3 days later they get back if they feel like it. That's not customer service. And while that may work to a certain extent for a company as big as Facebook, when you're a local boutique premium service based on trust in your local market, you need to provide a high level of customer service. And having someone taking those calls that isn't intimately involved in the day-to-day operations of your business, worst case scenario, it's going to be inefficient and cumbersome for a customer to get an answer. But a lot of times, they're just going to get lost in the shuffle. They're never going to get the answer they're looking for. And as we know, a lot of times, upset customers, they just stop scheduling pickups. They don't, hey, if I can't get a hold of you to fix my problem or to speak with you, then I'm certainly not going to try to get a hold of you to explain to you why I'm leaving. I'm just going to leave. And so part of being a premium boutique, locally owned and operated pickup and delivery business is providing amazing customer service. So the other part within this four-legged stool, if you will, is the marketing. And we have tried everything under the sun when it comes to marketing. And we don't want to drill down too much on what works and what doesn't work as far as tools. We want to stay, once again, a little bit high level. And what we tell people is if you are in a smaller market and you're in a market that doesn't have a ton of competition, you can probably get away with a modest budget of marketing, and you can possibly get away with do-it-yourself ads, Google AdWords, Facebook ads, things like that. I'm not going to ever say that there's not situations where that makes sense. But generally speaking, if you're in the top 2, 3, 4, 500 markets in the country, you're going to want a professional digital marketing company that does your marketing for you. Now, there are a million of them out there. I mean, we've used 6 or 7 of them over the years. What our experience has been is very few of them are actually really good at what they do. And the ones that are really good at what they do but aren't industry specific, you have to teach them they know how to run ads. They know what SEO is, but you have to teach them your business, your messaging, your advertising, keywords, negative keywords. If you don't do dry cleaning, you don't want people searching for dry cleaning, even though it comes up under the laundry category because that costs you clicks, which cost you money. You have to train. If you have a broad-based marketing company doing digital marketing for you and running ads, and they're really good at running ads, but they don't know the laundry industry, then what ends up happening is they run ads very efficiently using keywords and not using negative keywords when they shouldn't be, but they don't know any different. It's not that they're not competent, it's that they're not competent in this industry. So one of two things happens. Either we just outsource that to this plain Jane marketing company, and we never even know that they're wasting a bunch of our money, and they don't even know that they're wasting a bunch of money. Or they're learning on our dime, meaning they do know they're wasting money. They're trying to figure out how to market a laundry pickup and delivery service, and they're not going to tell you that they're learning on your dime. So at the end of the day, once again, we're not here to promote a particular service or product, but when it comes to marketing for your pickup and delivery business, we recommend that if you're, once again, in any decent size market, unless you're in the country, basically, you really want to find a professional digital marketing company, and you want to find one, if you can, that's industry specific, that specializes in the laundry industry, runs ads, and this applies for your laundromat, by the way, too. If you're just running ads for your self-serve laundromat, you want to find a company that at least runs ads for 10 or 15 other laundromats. So anyway, that's kind of how we break down the four-legged stool. We want to take a break for a minute and remind you about a workshop that we have coming up pretty soon. Some of you probably already know about this. Just a quick reminder, we've had a lot of people send us messages, so we're figuring there's probably a bunch of other people out there that have similar questions. And so we want to kind of dive into the workshop that we're doing here in Cincinnati. It's in person, and tell you a little bit about that during this episode. We're going to try to do these at least twice a year, and we're going to dive into a little bit of what it's not, what it is, answer a few of your questions. And then on the flip side of explaining to you about the workshop, we're going to break down the economics of that four-legged stool and how those different categories should break down. Should you be spending 10% on marketing or 1% on marketing?
And how you make sure you still have a profit left over.
Yes, because at the end of the day, this is a business and we are here to, yes, serve people, but we are here to make money. And if you take that four-legged stool and you take all the money in and all the money out, everybody's winning but you. And that shouldn't be the case either. I have a lot of coaching clients that come to me where that is the case, and we have to fix that.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about the workshop. So we're going to assume that you've heard about the workshop, but if you haven't, we're doing a pickup and delivery workshop. We just call it the Laundromat Millionaire Pickup and Delivery Workshop here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, if you're watching this right now as we're releasing the episode, it's our first workshop is coming up this October 27th and 28th, which is of 2022. It's in Cincinnati. It's a 2-day workshop. But the important thing to know if you're watching this in the future is we're planning on doing these twice a year at a minimum. And so if this is something you think you would be interested in as we kind of explain to you what it is, then go to our website. Go to our website, click on the coaching page, and it will tell you when the next workshop is. And if there's any spots still available for registration, it'll let you know that as well. So one of the things I want to do, and then I'm gonna jump into what it's not, because I actually have a lot of people saying, well, what about this and what about that? Is this kind of like the Laundromat Millionaire Conference and all these different things? This is the antithesis in a lot of ways of the Laundromat Millionaire Conference. So the first thing is these workshops are here in Cincinnati. They're a combination of in the hotel conference center, which is a small, intimate environment. We're only going to have up to 16 attendees. So this is not a big 100-person conference. It's not a big networking event. This is incredibly intensive. This is not 100 people get together. They have dinner. They do some networking. Everybody sits around and talks about their best practices, which is very valuable to do. Like we do this stuff at the Clean Show, and we have expert panel discussions. And at different conferences, at the Elevate conference in November, they had roundtable discussions where 8 people will sit around a round table, and Carla will say how she packages laundry, and this person will say and you might pick up nuggets from them, and those are valuable to do. We're biggest believers in the world of those things, but that's not what this is. This is something that the industry, quite frankly, has never seen before.
I would almost, instead of thinking of it as a workshop, think of it like a 2-day training event. Like we're really going to train you how to do pickup and delivery. It's going to be, you're going to be busy the whole time. Like it's not going to be a lot of downtime to just, sit and talk with other people. I mean, that's part of, we're going to be giving you all the meals will be provided. And that will be kind of a time to kind of network and ask questions of us and Q&As and stuff like that. But other than that, it's going to be intense training.
Yeah, absolutely. What we've done is if most of you know this, but for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been coaching people from all over the country, either over the phone on how to launch and scale pickup and delivery, which works. It absolutely works. So we've helped a lot of people that way, but it's slow and it's expensive because one call at a time and explaining things over the phone that you can't see in person. And, I could draw this out if you were here, but since you're not here and we're on the phone, blah, blah, blah. What this is we are breaking down, we are sharing with you in 2 days, we are sharing with you all of our best practices, but way more than that because we're sharing every aspect of our business model in person. This is not in theory. We do discuss in a classroom setting of about 20 people why we do what we do, the strategy. We explain the strategy of why we establish routes the way we do, why we charge the prices we charge, what our incentive models are, our processors and training and screening and technology and marketing. Yes, we go over all those things. And then what we also do is we take you to our facility, to our brand new 9,000 square foot laundromat here in Cincinnati. And you get to see in person, you get to literally put your eyes and ears on every aspect of our business. There is nothing. It is as behind the scenes, as intimate as you get. And the reason we're limiting this to 16 spots is because it's designed to be intense. It's designed to be in depth. And this is not theory. This is not best practices. You get 100% of our pickup and delivery business model. It's something that we're pretty passionate about. As I mentioned earlier, we plan on doing a couple of these a year, but you can go to our website. We have one coming up on October 27th, 28th. I will tell you that right now we're almost 50% full. So we do have limited spots, but we do have spots still available. If you get in once this is sold out, try to register for the next one, because we're thinking like roughly every spring and every fall here in Cincinnati, we're going to do 2 of these. But as Carla mentioned, it's 2 intense days. I mean, we're looking at 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. pretty much every day. There will be small breaks. We will obviously break for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All
And
of
snacks.
those snacks. Gotta have your snacks, guys. Those are all included in the cost of the workshop. But what it also includes is something that I've spent a lot of time on, and it's a full workshop handbook. So this is roughly a 20-page document where I've taken our entire business model and dropped it into a handbook. So we will not only teach you things in the classroom and why we do what we do, then we will take you into the real world, into our facility, and show you exactly what we were talking about, so you can ask questions and put your hands on these things and your eyes on these things, and what if this and what if that. But we're going to spend every meal together talking about the what ifs and what about this and what about that and why do you do this the way you do it. But then you also get to take that workshop handbook home with you. That's yours to keep. It's literally the Laundromat Millionaire pickup and delivery business model in a handbook that we do not sell outside the workshop. We only provide it to attendees of the in-person 2-day workshop. And then the last thing is, when you get back home and you start to implement these things and you review the workbook and things like that, you get 2 one-hour coaching calls with me personally, just one-on-one, me and you, the owner, discussing and talking about the things you learned when you were here, and maybe you misheard something or misread something and you reviewed the handbook and you're confused about this. Because the idea behind it is you have 6 months to do those 2 coaching calls.
He'll give you his scheduling link, and you will schedule them, anytime he's available. You just get on the scheduling link and pick that time.
Yep. You basically become a one-on-one coaching client for 2 one-hour calls. We jump on the calls and we can talk about if it's pain points as you started to roll out this and this and this. We all know there's a big difference in having information and being able to execute. So here we give you the information. We show you how we execute. We talk about it over all of our meals. And then when you get home, you get 2 one-on-one coaching calls with me for an hour each time to talk about your execution and maybe why it's working, why it's not working, little tweaks. And of course, we know that you're not going to copy 100% of our business model, but we actually highly recommend that you copy about 95% of it. And so I can coach you and work you through those last few things. So anyway, that's the workshop we'll be doing twice a year if you're watching this in the future.
There's a link in the show notes. So if you want to check it out, there's more information you can access from the page of that. And then also you can reserve, or if we're all full, you can get on the waiting list for our next session.
Yep, absolutely. So if you're interested in that, on the link, what you can also do is schedule a discovery call with me. So if you want to jump on a quick 15, 20-minute call and ask a few more questions, maybe things we didn't cover here, and that's about the workshops themselves. So schedule that call. We'll jump on it. I'll say, I understand you're interested in the workshop. What do you want to know? What are the questions we haven't answered for you yet? Because it is an investment. We understand that. It's a significant investment. And by the way, we have 2 price points. One is just for the owner to attend, and the other is for the owner to attend with either a spouse or with an employee. We always call them an operations manager. If 5 years ago, if we had something like this, I would have absolutely taken Marlene, our GM, with us on that. And you get a slight discount if you bring a second person. And that does count as 2 slots, by the way. So that's why we're filling up so quick. Several people that have registered are bringing their operations manager with them. And so once again, this is a small, intimate setting thing. But anyway, let's jump back to what we were originally talking about before, Carla, the economics of a robust pickup and delivery business. And now we're switching from like operations to the money. Right? Because we can get all the operations right, but if you don't have them in the right categories, or if you're inefficient in certain things and not others, then what you're going to be left with at the end of the day is a big fat goose egg. Yep. All right. So here's how we break it down. Now, it's also kind of broken down into 4 categories, but they're not identical to what we had before. They're similar. The first one is we put technology, marketing, and customer service kind of all in one silo or category, if you will. And the reason I did that is because none of them are or should be super expensive. I mean, if you have technology, marketing, and customer service, and it's 30% of your gross revenue, you are in so much trouble, it's ridiculous. Like, we couldn't even make money on that model. And so we want you to understand how these percentages should break down. With technology, once again, you can purchase some pretty robust software out there that'll run and allow you to scale a pickup and delivery business for $200, $300, $400, $500 a month at the most. Most of them don't have any royalties or revenue sharing models or anything like that. It's just like you pay this much a month for your business, and you can grow it to a $10 million business, and you're still going to pay $500 a month. So obviously in the beginning, if you have, $500 in revenue, then obviously you're not going to fit in this 10% category. But what I tell people is typically about the 12-month mark is where you should be able to hit these categories pretty consistently. But it's also just important to know what the targets are, what the categories are. So okay, maybe I'm not going to hit this in the first month, but an example is if you're doing $1,000 in revenue, well, $500 a month for software is a lot of money. If you're doing $1 million a year in revenue, then $500 a month is like
Nothing.
Zero, basically. Yeah. And that's why these numbers that's why these categories are broken out the way they are. They're
really, I would say, think of them as goals. Yeah. Like long term, you want your technology, marketing, and customer service to only make up about 10%, to be at around 10% of your revenue. I know there were times where for us, especially with the marketing, we were well over that 10%, but we basically, if you're over it, just accept that that's coming from your profit. So like early on, we had to kind of teach our customers or our customer base about this service. People weren't doing pickup and delivery. So we did a lot of marketing up front, just trying to teach the community that this was a service that they could pursue or they could use. So we spent a lot on marketing, and we were definitely over this 10%. Now that we've established our service, we're more at that 10%. So it's kind of that goal you want to be long-term.
Yeah. To give you an example, like our technology, I mean, we generate about $800,000 a year in gross revenue for pickup and delivery here in Cincinnati. Our technology is $300 a month. Our marketing is 3% of our gross revenue, and our customer service expenses are about $1,000 a month. So we're actually nowhere near the 10%. And the beauty is, if you can overshoot these things or undershoot these things, it goes to or comes off of your profit. So if that 10% turns into 20%, guess where that 10% is coming from? It's coming from your profit. And that's why we want you to know how operationally you should be broken down into departments or categories, but economically, we want you to know that as well, because we see way too many people, and when I coach them, that they're just launching pickup and delivery, they're scaling, and they just see their gross numbers keep growing, and they just assume they're making money. And by the way, I was guilty of that at one point. If you don't know our story, go check it out in the book, in the podcast that we did about our story. But there was a time where, as we kept growing pickup and delivery, we made less, and we were actually losing more and more money. And luckily, my little data-oriented math nerd of a wife was watching the numbers, and she was going, "This isn't working. You're going to grow us."
We were growing revenue. We were not growing profits.
That's right.
Because we had so many inefficiencies.
And we don't want that. We don't want that to be you. So we want you to keep an eye on these. But also, the flip side is we don't want you to feel like you have to be micromanaging your money either. Like, you don't necessarily have to watch every penny. But if you just approach it because from like a high view of, okay, these are the 4 categories, and all these expenses need to go into these categories. That's kind of why we're sharing this information with you, is this is a pretty fine-tuned business model at this point. All right. So the next category when it comes to the economics is I put together logistics, utilities, and equipment. So logistics, pretty self-explanatory, right? That's a cost of your vans, cost of your driver's labor, gasoline, insurance, things like that. And these, by the way, don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. Utilities is the cost of your utilities to run your machines. So a lot of people forget about that. But if your utilities are 6% of your gross revenue and you're not calculating that in, well, you're paying it you just think you're making 6% more on your gross revenue than you actually are. And that's where when I'm coaching clients, they say, oh, I think I'm making about 25%. And then we drill down and they're making 3% or losing 3%. Because a lot of times they forget about things like utilities. Yes, the benefit of having that equipment there is you don't have to go buy equipment. You don't have to pay more in rent. You have fixed costs, but utilities are not a fixed cost. So if you're instead of running your equipment 3 times a day, you're running it 8 times a day, or instead of 5 times a day, you're running it 16 times a day like us, then you better be accounting for that in your business model, or you're not making near as much money as you think you are. And then the last one is equipment. And we don't mean washers and dryers in this. We talk about things like tablets for your drivers to use on their routes, cell phones, computers, just equipment costs in general, printers, things like that, which are semi-fixed costs, but there are still costs associated with them. And a lot of them have your equipment cost, and then they also have your monthly expenses. Mm-hmm. So we kind of silo those together. That should be roughly about 25% of your gross revenue. So the processing, right? That's the big one that we talked about earlier. Well, guess what? It's just as big of a deal when it comes to your economics. The fact of the matter is, this is a labor-intensive business, and you're not going to get around it. Now, there is labor associated with driving vehicles and insurance and things like that, but the lion's share of your labor is going to be your processing. And the reason that this is so significant, we have it at 35%, and ours is a little bit below that, but we recommend you keep it below that, is we not only have the cost of your processor's labor in there, we have the cost of layers of management in there, because we don't work in our business. We don't manage our businesses. We're the owners of them. And while you can start that way and keep that number way below 35, we want to offer, coach in these workshops and in person. We want to teach you and train you a business model that allows you financial freedom, not being in jail. We want you to be in a situation where instead of the business owning you, you own the business. And so maybe early on, and in fact, I encourage early on that you're very active in your business as you get these things done. But we also want to account for a business model economically that allows some layers of management. It obviously includes the cost of your processors, but things that I often see forgotten are things like payroll expenses. You know, if I'm paying Carla $15 an hour to do laundry, her cost is not $15 an hour. It's typically closer to $18 to $19 an hour by the time I pay Medicare and Social Security taxes and workers' compensation and all these types of things. Not to mention if I have managers who maybe even make more than that. It's not just about the cost you pay them per hour. You need to be calculating all of your expenses in there. And that's where that 35% comes in.
Well, and then also the supplies for processing.
Mm-hmm.
So the soap, the packaging, all that kind of stuff as well.
And once again, not a huge number, but it does add up. So the way the model is broken down economically is you have 10% for technology, marketing, and customer service. We have logistics, utilities, and equipment is roughly 25% of your gross revenue. And then your processing is 30%. And what does that leave us with? That leaves us with our fourth category, the profit. Isn't that a show? Isn't that a TV show? We love the profit. But we love profit too, by the way. Because once again, you're not doing this for free. We're not a nonprofit. We're here to make money. And you can notice that if you were just to slip each of these by 5% and be off by what's a fairly insignificant amount, or you didn't understand how to silo them and maybe one was off by 10 or 20%, I mean, every inefficiency in your business comes out of your operator profit. And so even that 30% could drop down to 10 or 15. And you should not be operating a pickup and delivery business at a 10% margin unless you're, once again, very early, have some fixed expenses and things like that. So we hope that these things make sense for you. This is stuff we've shared in person with different people individually, but we wanted to put together a podcast because, well, pickup and delivery is kind of a big freaking deal.
It's a hot topic right now,
It's a hot topic. Sure. And what I've learned over coaching clients over the last 3 or 4 years is almost everyone that comes to me thinks they're making 10, 15, 20, 30%. And over 50% of them are losing money when we drill down. And the other 50%, very, very, very few of them are making more than 10%. And that's a shame. Now, luckily, I can help them with that. But once again, this is the reason we put together the workshop, is to put these different things together and explain for you. But we understand the workshop's only going to serve 20, 30, 40 people a year. Not everybody can afford to come. Not everybody can take the time off to come. Not everybody sees the benefit of the investment. We get all of that. So we wanted this podcast to at least bring you value from a high level. And then when you drill down on those things, you'll need to figure out, if you don't attend the workshop, you'll need to figure out, how do I get my processing costs below 35%? But anyway, we hope that brings you a lot of value and makes sense to you. We appreciate you guys being here today. Thanks for letting us kind of pitch the workshop to you. For those of you that it is a good fit for, do us a favor and go over to the website right now and register, because we know we're going to fill up very, very quickly. 16 spots just isn't much.
Yeah, there's a link in the show notes, or you can just go to laundromatmillionaire.com/coaching, and it's on our coaching page.
Absolutely. All right. We will see you all next time for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Take care, everyone.
Bye.